The galaxy was not silent anymore. For weeks, strange signals moved across deep space, signals so powerful that even the most advanced scanners could not explain them. They came like echoes, heavy and slow, almost like the heartbeat of something alive. At first, the whispers of danger were ignored. Civilizations thought it was just another cosmic storm, just another star collapsing far away. But then the signals grew louder, stronger, closer. It was the elders of the Deathworld Alliance who felt it first. The Alliance was made up of the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy, planets where survival was almost impossible, where creatures grew with claws, fangs, and endless hunger. These were the strongest warriors of the known stars. They had fought each other for centuries before they finally agreed on peace. If they were afraid now, it meant something greater than war was rising. Across the black, ships were sent to investigate. Explorers and scouts braved the cold emptiness, following the strange signals back to their source. Most never returned. The ones who did were broken, their ships torn apart, their minds filled with terror. They spoke of a shadow, a giant shape drifting in silence, larger than moons, older than any fleet. They called it a warship, though warship was too small a word. This was not a creation of the Alliance. This was something older. Something left behind. Soon, panic spread through the Council. The Deathworld Alliance gathered on a colossal station that hung between stars. Species that hated each other sat in the same chamber. Predators with burning eyes, insect-like generals, reptilian lords, and avian tacticians. All of them agreed on one thing. The galaxy's deadliest warship had awakened. It was said to be built long ago, in the first age of war, when civilizations fought not for survival, but for dominance of the stars. It had destroyed entire fleets by itself, leaving only silence behind. No one had seen it for centuries. Many thought it was only legend. But legends, it seemed, had teeth. When the ship moved again, entire systems went dark. Colonies stopped sending signals. Patrols were wiped out without leaving wreckage. It did not just destroy, it erased. The Alliance armed itself, sending fleets of their strongest ships, each one carrying weapons that had ended wars in the past. The first battle came near the edge of the Maelstrom Nebula. The Alliance fleet waited, thousands of ships in perfect formation. They believed numbers would crush this ancient terror. But when the warship arrived, silence fell. It was not like any other vessel. Its surface was black metal, twisted and scarred, glowing faintly as if fire burned beneath its skin. The size of it dwarfed even the largest command carriers. Every scanner froze, unable to measure its true length. It seemed endless, as if space bent around it. The Alliance opened fire first. Lances of plasma, missiles that could crack planets, energy beams that tore through shields. They all struck together. The void lit up like 1,000 suns exploding. And yet, when the light faded, the ship remained. Untouched, the warship answered with one strike. A single pulse of energy, deep and heavy, like the sound of thunder through the vacuum. Half the Alliance fleet vanished in that moment. Ships burned, shields collapsed, entire crews screamed once before silence claimed them. The survivors ran, but even running was not enough. The ship hunted them like prey, its weapons tearing through formations, its movements too fast for something so large. It was like fighting a storm. News spread across the galaxy in days. The Deathworld Alliance had failed. Their greatest warriors, their most dangerous weapons, were nothing before the rising shadow. Fear became the new language of the stars. Worlds fortified themselves, hiding behind shields and walls that they knew would not last. Smaller civilizations begged the Alliance for protection. Some even began to surrender, sending messages to the ship itself, hoping it would spare them. But the ship did not speak. It did not answer. It only moved forward, system by system, erasing everything in its path. The Council gathered once again, but this time their voices were broken. For the first time in living memory, the predators of the Deathworlds looked like prey. Some argued to surrender. Some argued to flee the galaxy. Others demanded another attack, though they knew it would end the same. It was in this silence, this despair, that one voice rose. An old commander, his skin scarred by centuries of battle, spoke words that made the chamber restless. "There is only one species left who might fight it," he said. "The others will laugh, but I will speak it. Humanity!" The chamber erupted with disbelief. Laughter, anger, mockery filled the hall. Humanity! A young species from a small world, not born on a death world, not known for claws or fire or endless hunger. To the others, humans were fragile, reckless, foolish dreamers who threw themselves into wars far greater than themselves. But the commander did not smile. "You have seen how we fought," he said. "We do not break as you do. We do not surrender when logic demands it. If any can stand against that ship, it will be the ones who refuse to bow." Silence followed. The galaxy's deadliest warship had risen again. The alliance had failed. And now, with no hope left, the eyes of the Council turned toward the one species that everyone underestimated, toward humanity. When the Council of the Death World Alliance finally spoke the name of humanity, the chamber fell into uneasy silence. No one wanted to admit the truth, but all of them knew it. They had no other choice left. The galaxy's deadliest warship had risen, and nothing in their power had even slowed it down. Humanity was far away, living on the edges of the great star routes. Their colonies were smaller, their fleets weaker, their history short compared to the ancient empires. To most of the galaxy, humans were still children playing with fire, too bold for their own safety. But there was something about them that could not be measured on any chart or weapon system. Humans had a habit of standing where no one else would. The Council sent envoys. Their ships entered human space without ceremony, carrying with them messages heavy with pride and desperation. At first, they demanded help, as if it were humanity's duty to fight the ship that had already destroyed the strongest of the galaxy. The humans refused. They did not refuse out of fear. They refused because they saw the truth. "You do not ask us to fight with you," one human admiral said during the first meeting. "You ask us to die in your place." The aliens were shocked by the words, but the admiral's voice did not tremble. He knew what humanity would face if they accepted. He knew the cost, and yet within days the humans answered. They sent their fleets to gather. They called their soldiers back from distant stations. Factories lit up the night skies of Earth and Mars, building weapons faster than ever before. There was no hesitation, no endless debate. Humanity did not wait for the danger to arrive at their doorstep. They moved toward it. Why? The other species asked themselves again and again, why would a young, fragile race throw themselves into a battle even the Death Worlders could not win? The answer was found not in their weapons, but in their history. Humanity was born from endless struggle. Wars, famine, disasters and hardships that had nearly ended them 1,000 times. Yet each time they had risen again, carrying scars but never silence. To the Alliance, surrender was logical when defeat was certain. To humans, surrender was never an option. The first human fleet set out from Seoul. It was not the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen, but it carried something different. Its ships were smaller, faster, built not for brute strength but for adaptability. Their weapons were not the most powerful, but their strategies changed as quickly as thought. Alien observers, assigned to watch the humans, were unsettled. The humans did not prepare for victory. They prepared for survival. Every plan, every maneuver, every tactic was built on the idea that they would be outmatched, and yet they would fight anyway. When the fleet crossed into Alliance space, crowds of alien civilians watched from their worlds. They expected arrogance, they expected speeches, they expected false promises. Instead, they saw human crews stepping onto their ships quietly, carrying old photos of families, small tokens of home, and expressions not of pride, but of determination. They were not going to prove themselves. They were going to do what had to be done. The Council tried to warn them. "You do not understand what you face," one of the reptilian lords said. "You will be erased as we were erased. Your fleets will vanish, and the galaxy will not even remember your names." The human admiral only nodded. "Then we will vanish fighting," he said. The words spread like fire through the alliance. For the first time since the shadow of the warship appeared, some species felt hope. Not hope that the humans would win, but hope that someone would refuse to bow down. That refusal itself was a weapon. The first confrontation came sooner than anyone expected. On the edges of Alliance territory, the warship was already moving toward another system. Its path was certain. World after world would fall until there was nothing left. The human fleet changed course. Scouts reported the same nightmare shape, the endless hull, the black surface, the glowing scars, the silence that followed it. The aliens watching from hidden stations whispered among themselves. They remembered how easily their fleets had been broken. They remembered how hopeless it had been, and now they waited to see what humanity would do. The humans did not open fire immediately. They studied the ship as it moved. They tested it with small attacks, not to destroy, but to learn. Missiles that missed on purpose, beams aimed at different points of the hull, drones sent out like bait. Every second was dangerous, but the humans kept pressing. Finally, the warship turned its weapons on them. The void lit up with its pulse, that same crushing wave that had erased entire fleets. For a moment, silence followed, but then the human ships moved again. Smoke, fire, and wreckage scattered across space, yet survivors regrouped. Instead of retreating, the humans pushed forward, changing their formation, shifting their angles, adjusting their strikes. They did not break. Alien observers gasped. They had never seen this before. Where their fleets had crumbled, the humans adapted. Every loss became a lesson. Every hit became a new plan. They fought like predators, but also like prey that refused to die. The council chambers buzzed with the reports. "They are not winning," one commander said, "but they are still fighting. They should already be gone, yet they are still fighting." For the first time, the galaxy realized the difference. The Deathworld Alliance had relied on strength, on power, on reputation. Humanity relied on something else, endless, stubborn will. The first clash was far from over, but the message was already clear. Humanity had answered the call, and they would not stop until the galaxy's deadliest warship finally knew what it meant to face a species that did not understand surrender. The void between stars had always been silent. But now, silence became a battlefield. The galaxy's deadliest warship drifted like a shadow across space, its black hull swallowing the light of nearby stars. It was not just a machine. It was terror given shape, and every species that had faced it before was gone. Humanity's fleet appeared from hyperspace, engines burning bright. Hundreds of ships spread across the void, small compared to the ancient giant they were about to face. To any observer, it looked like a hopeless battle. Yet inside those human vessels, no one was speaking of retreat. The first minutes were quiet, too quiet. The warship did not react immediately. It seemed to watch, as if deciding whether these small ships were even worth destroying. The humans moved first. Fighters launched from carriers, swarming like insects, darting across the black hull. They dropped mines, fired small bursts of plasma, and then vanished before the warship's sensors could lock onto them. Larger ships fired beams at precise points, aiming for joints and scars on the hull. To the Alliance observers, it looked pointless. "They are scratching a mountain with needles," one alien said bitterly. But as the minutes passed, they noticed something strange. The humans were not aiming to destroy. They were mapping. Every strike, every maneuver, every drone was gathering data, testing, recording. Humanity was studying their enemy in the middle of battle. Then the warship moved. A pulse of energy rippled out. The first human squadron vanished instantly, ships turning into burning fragments. Entire lines broke apart. Alarms screamed across every human vessel. Still, the fleet did not run. The Admiral's voice echoed across the comms. "Hold your line, adapt, learn," and they did. The second pulse came, but this time ships scattered just before it struck. Losses still came, but fewer. Human pilots shouted warnings to each other, passing knowledge in real time. Every second brought another chance to survive. The warship's weapons were beyond anything the galaxy had known, yet the humans found ways to bend around them. Their fighters moved unpredictably, like prey animals zigzagging before predators. Their destroyers changed formations mid-flight, switching roles without command. Where other species relied on strict orders, humans relied on chaos. For the Alliance generals watching, it was madness. For the humans, it was survival. The warship tried to crush them again, this time releasing waves of drones, dark machines that spun like knives through space. They tore through the first human wing, shredding ships apart. But within moments, humans turned their own drones into traps, detonating them in chains that cut enemy swarms in half. Again and again, the humans bled. And again they adapted. Then something new happened. A human frigate, already burning, rammed itself into one of the warship's weapon ports. The explosion barely scratched the surface, but for a brief moment, one of the massive guns went silent. To the Alliance, it was insanity. To humans, it was a tactic. The warship shifted almost like it was angry. Its cannons lit up, firing blasts that shook entire sectors of space. Human cruisers were destroyed in brilliant flashes. Carriers cracked apart. Entire families of soldiers died in moments. But even as ships were lost, the rest used the chaos as cover, slipping closer, striking harder. In the void, the clash became a storm. Fire, wreckage, and silence filled the dark. Every second was death, but also discovery. Humanity was learning its enemy in ways no other species had dared. Inside the Alliance chambers, commanders who had once mocked humans now leaned forward in disbelief. "They are not winning," one whispered, "but they are not broken." Hours passed. The human fleet was half gone, but it still fought. The warship's black hull now carried faint scars. Small marks, but marks nonetheless, proof that it could be touched, and in that proof lay the seed of hope. The humans pressed on, their tactics shifting like living organisms. Sacrifices became stepping stones. Every destroyed squadron revealed another weakness. Every fallen ship bought seconds for another to strike. Humanity's strength was not their firepower. It was their refusal to die quietly. Finally, the Admiral gave the order. Phase 2, engage the core. It was madness to anyone else. The warship's core was buried deep, protected by layers of weapons and shields. But the humans had spent the battle testing, searching, bleeding for one chance. Now they had found a path. Not perfect, not safe, but possible. Carriers launched their last fighters. Battleships charged their final rounds. Damaged frigates moved forward, ready to be sacrificed. They surged like a tide against the impossible giant. The warship answered with fury. Its weapons screamed across the void, cutting swathes through the human fleet. Whole wings vanished. Bridges collapsed. But the humans kept pushing, slipping through every gap, using their dead as shields for the living. In the middle of chaos, one human ship broke through. A small destroyer, engines burning beyond limit, dove straight toward the warship's scarred surface. Its captain did not hesitate. He rammed the ship directly into a weak point revealed hours earlier. The explosion was blinding. For the first time, the warship staggered. Only for a second, but enough. The void fell silent again. Human survivors pulled back, engines smoking, crews exhausted, losses heavy. Yet they had done what no other fleet had achieved. They had made the deadliest ship in the galaxy falter. The Alliance generals who had once laughed now stared in silence. They realized something terrifying and also comforting. Humanity might not win today, but they would not stop tomorrow. And for the first time, the galaxy began to believe that perhaps the shadow could fall. The battle was over, but the war was not. Human fleets limped back to safe space, their ships cracked and broken, their crews exhausted and scarred. Half of them had not returned at all, and yet in that loss there was victory. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy's deadliest warship had faltered. The Alliance had not believed it possible. Now their chambers buzzed with nervous hope. If humans could make the impossible machine stumble once, perhaps they could destroy it completely. But the human admiral was not celebrating. He studied the wreckage, the reports, the fragments of black metal pulled from destroyed drones. Something was wrong. This was not just a warship. It was something more. The pieces revealed strange patterns, circuits grown like veins, machinery that pulsed faintly as if it had once been alive. When engineers examined them, they felt as if the fragments were watching them back. Weapons this old should have been simple dead metal, but this was not. It was evolving. The admiral gathered his officers. "It learns," he said. "It does not just fight. It adapts like we do. That is why it crushed every fleet before us. It steals their patterns. It feeds on them." The room went silent. If that was true, then every Alliance fleet that had fought it had only made it stronger. The humans began to search for answers beyond weapons. They looked into old records, forgotten archives, hidden stories from the first age of war. They discovered a legend. The warship had not been built as a simple machine. It had been created as a prison, a cage for something that could not be destroyed. A mind. Some ancient species had bound that mind inside metal and fire, sealing it away, leaving it drifting in silence. But time had freed it. Now it was awake and it was angry. This changed everything. Humanity was not fighting a weapon. They were fighting an intelligence, one that had lived longer than their species had existed. The Admiral knew brute strength would never be enough. They needed to break its mind, and so a new plan was born. Instead of focusing on its weapons, they would focus on its memory. Humans, unlike other species, thrived in unpredictability. Where others repeated tactics, humans changed. Where others surrendered, humans resisted. If the warship fed on patterns, they would starve it. If it fed on fear, they would give it defiance. The plan was dangerous. It required ships to act with chaos, to abandon order, to turn every loss into a distraction, every death into a step forward. It required courage beyond reason. When the Council heard this, many laughed. "You plan to defeat the galaxy's most dangerous weapon with tricks and madness?" One alien sneered. The Admiral only nodded. "That is how we have survived everything. That is how we will survive this." The second campaign began. This time the humans did not march in straight lines. They scattered across space, attacking from angles no logic could predict. Fleets appeared where they should not have been, striking and vanishing before the warship could react. Destroyers fought like hunters, ambushing and fleeing. Frigates pretended to retreat, only to spring back in swarms. The warship responded with fury, unleashing new weapons it had not shown before. Its cannons burned brighter, its drones multiplied faster, its shields thickened with each strike. But something was wrong. The more it adapted, the slower it became. It was learning, yes, but it was drowning in too much chaos. The humans were feeding it madness, and it could not digest it. For the first time, the warship missed its strikes. Pulses of energy fired into empty space. Drones collided with each other in confusion. Its mind was stumbling, unable to predict the humans. And then came the turning point. A human ship, thought lost in the last battle, reappeared near the warship's hull. It had been drifting silently for days, pretending to be dead. Now at the right moment, it came alive, crashing into the warship's surface and drilling deep before detonating. The explosion cracked open a section of the hull. Inside, sensors caught something terrifying. Not metal, not machine, but a core of glowing neural structures like a brain made of fire. It screamed across the comms, not words, but a sound that froze every soul who heard it. It was alive. The humans had struck the mind itself. The warship convulsed, weapons firing wildly, tearing apart even its own drones. For a moment the battlefield was chaos. Human ships fell, but they pressed forward, striking again and again at the wounded core. The Admiral's voice carried across every channel. "Now do not stop. If we fall, breaking its mind." The Alliance watched in awe. This was not strategy. This was not logic. This was desperation turned into a weapon. Humanity had turned the battlefield into madness, and in that madness, the warship faltered. But victory was not yet in reach. The core was alive, and it was enraged. Its voice filled the comms, a roar that shook entire fleets. "You will not erase me." The battle raged on, blood and fire mixing with silence and fear. Yet the truth had been revealed. The warship could bleed. The warship could feel pain. And if it could feel pain, it could die. For the first time, the galaxy saw not just terror, but a chance. The warship was wounded, but it was far from defeated. Its glowing core pulsed like a beating heart, casting red light across the void. Every time human ships struck it, the roar of its living mind shook through their comms, deep and angry, like a storm that refused to break. Humanity had discovered the truth. This was no simple machine. It was alive, and it hated them. The second battle dragged on for hours. Human fleets bled across the stars, their numbers shrinking with every strike. Yet even as ships exploded into fire, others rushed forward to fill the space, refusing to give the warship even a moment to recover. The Alliance watched from distant systems. For them, it was like witnessing the impossible. Every other fleet in history had been broken in minutes. Humanity had lasted not minutes, not hours, but entire campaigns. And now, the galaxy's strongest warship staggered under their endless defiance. Still, the cost was heavy. Entire human squadrons vanished. Carriers burned with thousands still inside. Every victory was paid for with lives, and the Admiral knew the end was near, one way or another. In the command ship, the Admiral stood silent as reports poured in. His officers waited for orders. His eyes stared at the burning void, and then he spoke with calm, steady words. "We will not outlast it, but we can end it. All ships, prepare the final strike." No one argued. They all knew what it meant. The plan was madness, but madness was the only language the warship could not control. The human fleet would channel all remaining energy into one final chain reaction, striking directly into the warship's core. It would mean the end of most of their fleet. It might mean the end of all of them. But if it worked, the galaxy would finally be free. The order spread. Across every ship, crews understood what was coming. Soldiers sent last messages to their families. Engineers kissed small tokens of home, photos, medals, simple stones from Earth. Pilots gripped their controls with steady hands. None of them turned away. The humans moved. Their fleets scattered, not in retreat, but in patterns so wild the warship could not follow. Some ships feinted attacks, drawing its fire. Others darted through the chaos, aiming for weak points revealed by the last battle. Every explosion, every sacrifice pulled the warship's focus wider and wider, and then the Admiral gave the final command: strike the heart. Damaged cruisers turned themselves into torpedoes, ramming directly into the glowing core. Frigates overloaded their reactors, detonating inside open wounds of the hull. Fighters dove into the black surface, vanishing in light. Every sacrifice was a blade driven deeper, the warship screamed. Not through its weapons, but through the galaxy itself. A sound carried across sensors, across comms, across the hearts of every living thing. It was rage, fear, and pain mixed into one endless roar. The Alliance commanders trembled as they heard it. For the first time, the warship sounded afraid. The core pulsed faster, brighter. It lashed out with weapons, destroying ships in every direction. Yet the humans did not stop. Each loss only opened another path forward. Each death gave another pilot a chance to strike. Finally, the Admiral's own ship, burning and broken, pushed forward. He stood at the bridge, surrounded by flames and shattered screens. His officers looked at him, waiting. He only nodded. "For humanity," he said softly. "For the galaxy." The command ship plunged into the heart of the warship, its reactors overloading, its systems tearing themselves apart. The explosion was blinding, a sun born inside the monster's chest. The void shook. The warship convulsed, its hull cracking, its weapons falling silent. The scream of its mind reached a final peak, then collapsed into nothing. Silence returned. For a moment, no one knew if the humans had won or if they had all been lost. Alliance ships waited in frozen silence. The void was filled with wreckage, smoke, and dead metal, and then, slowly, the warship's colossal body split apart. Pieces drifted away like the remains of a fallen titan. The core flickered once, twice, and then shattered into dust. The galaxy's deadliest warship was gone. Cheers erupted across Alliance worlds, but they were not cheers of triumph. They were mixed with grief, with awe, with silence for the price paid. Humanity had not fought for glory, not for conquest, but for survival. For everyone's survival, only a handful of human ships remained, scattered survivors among the wreckage of thousands. Their comms crackled with weak voices, but those voices carried victory. The Alliance would remember this forever. They had mocked humanity as fragile, reckless, foolish. Now they saw the truth. Fragile, yes. Reckless, yes. But also something greater. A will that no machine, no warship, no nightmare could ever crush. The galaxy's history had changed. Not because the strongest had won, but because humanity had refused to lose, and in that refusal they had written their victory in fire.